Hello everyone and welcome to this week's SEL video. In this lecture I will be going through some basics of Construct 3. Construct 3 is a web-based game engine. It's available for free. Of course there's a premium version of the account where you get more features. But for the purpose of your assignment, actually the free account is more than sufficient. Now you might be wondering why am I introducing this to you on week 15. You know, it seems a bit dangerous, I guess, to use a new software, a new game engine for your assignment, kind of like 2 weeks away from the deadline. But I personally feel that Construct is a tool that can be easily picked up. It's not that difficult to learn, and I think the features are basic enough, but it gets the job done. Right, so without further ado, let us dive straight into it. As I mentioned, you can just create a free account, and once you have the free account, you'll be able to launch the editor. So let me do so. Okay, so first thing first, you need to create a new file. So click on new and type in your project name. In this case, I'll just call it demo, and you can choose over here some presets, right? There are several presets to choose from. If you are creating a PC game or a console game for that matter, you would want to choose the 1080p landscape. Zoom in on this. You want to choose the 1080p landscape for a PC or console kind of setup. If you are doing a mobile, you can either go with 1080p portrait or 720p portrait. Both are fine. Okay, so in this example, I'll just go with 1080p landscape, which will set the viewport size. We'll talk more about the viewport later on. Orientation landscape, start with event sheet. So I think this is the default settings. Okay, if you are making a pixel art game, you may want to check on this. For now, since it's a demo, I will just leave everything as per default and click on create. So once you have created, you'll be met with this general user interface. As I mentioned, this is all web-based. Of course, you can later on export your project as a single file, download an offline version of this file, but to open it you'll need to reaccess this page again. Okay, so over here you can see, let me just quickly walk you through the UI. On the left hand bar, you can see the properties panel, and this is context sensitive, so based on what you select, based on what you based on what you select, right, it will change accordingly. And then in the middle area you can see this working area, this viewport area. At the top there are some tabs, so if you have opened up different layouts or different event sheets, right, which I'll get to later on, you can toggle between them, kind of like how you will do in the web browser. On the right hand side you will see this project panel. This is where all your assets are being categorized and laid out, so it's a very familiar space. And to the bottom you can see this layers panel, which we will also talk about later on. Okay, so firstly let us get into navigating the viewport area. To pan around, you can either hold down the middle mouse button and move your mouse around, or you can hold down the shift key on your keyboard and then just move your mouse around. You don't need to left click or anything, just hold down the shift key. Okay, so personally I prefer to use the middle mouse button. And then to scroll up and down the canvas, right, basically just use your scroll wheel. If you want to zoom in and out, okay, hold down the control key and scroll your mouse scroll wheel. Okay, so pretty simple, I would say, to navigate this. It's quite similar to your spine. The next thing I want to mention is the difference between the layout size and the viewport size. So previously, if you recall, we selected the 1080p preset, and that is actually determining the viewport size. You can see over here there's this faint dotted line here. Okay, so you can see this is the viewport size. Okay, what this actually means, right, is the camera size. As the player is playing the game, right, this is what the player will see. What you have over here, right, is actually the entire map, right, the entire layout size. So for starters, let us keep things simple. Okay, I click on my layout, which is by default it is named layout 1, and let me just set this size. Right now is 3840 by 2160. Let me just set it to 1920 by 1080. So the layout size is the same as the viewport size. Okay, the viewport size, if you want to change it later on, to change it, right, you will need to click on your project, the entire project. Okay, so just now I only affected this layout. Okay, but if you want to change the viewport size, you have to click on this project. Okay, and then it's over here lah, if I want to resize it for whatever reason. Okay, but to keep things simple for our first demonstration, right, I will just resize the layout to be the exact same size as the viewport size. Later on, we will talk about different layout sizes. Okay, so to run you through, let us just create a very simple platformer. Alright, to insert your first object, simply just right click anywhere on this viewport space. You can right click outside also, it doesn't matter, but it has to be in this like central area over here. Just right click and click on insert new object. Okay, and let me just scroll down and select sprite, and maybe I just give it a name lah. Maybe I just call it ground. Okay, and then I'll just insert and just click anywhere on the screen. Okay, which will bring me to this viewport, or rather this insert new image kind of a window. Okay, so to for now, let us not insert any images, and let me just create a new one here lah. Okay, so I will just find a color for ground, maybe something brownish is suitable, and I just select on my fill tool. You can press the F key and just click on this to fill this square, and then I just close it. And then you can see that there's this square that appears on my screen. So let me just move to the bottom of it and just rescale it so that it's like at the bottom. Okay, then after I have this ground object, right, maybe I want to create the sky behind. So let me just insert a new object and select on sprite again and call it sky, insert, click anywhere, find a suitable blue color to represent the sky, close it, and let me just move it, rescale it. Okay, so right now, right, the sky is actually appearing on top of my ground. Okay, so I want the sky to be in the background, obviously. So what I can do, right, is I can right click on this, I can go to Z order, and I can send it to the bottom of the layer so it appears behind the ground object. Of course, if there are multiple objects and it can be very difficult to sort, right, you can always open the Z order bar. Unfortunately, it's not available in the free edition. Okay, but I think if you don't have too many objects, it shouldn't be a problem. So for now, let me just send it to the bottom of the layer, and you can see that it's appearing behind this ground object. Okay, so next, let me just add in the player object. So just again right click anywhere. Okay, right click anywhere. You can even right click this sky object, doesn't matter. Insert new object, scroll down, sprite, and I'll call it character. Or call it player. Should be easier to type later on. Okay, player, insert, click anywhere, and maybe for the player I will give him like a yellowish color. Okay, maybe just to add a bit of flair to it, let me just add some decorations. Okay, so this is my player object, and let me just rescale it. Okay, if you want to rescale, same with any other software, you know, you can hold down the shift key so that you are constraining it to the correct proportions instead of like going too crazy. Okay, let me do this. And so right now if I try to play it, the play button is over here at the top. Okay, basically you will see what you have on the viewport lah, so that's fine. So let us go into the next topic, which is behaviors. Okay, so in Construct, you actually don't need a lot of programming skills or scripting skills to get things to work. Okay, and one of the reasons for that is because they have already some presets called behaviors that you can use to your advantage. So let me just select on my player object, and if I look over here at the properties panel, if I scroll downwards, you will see this behavior section. Okay, so just click on add behaviors, and let me add a new behavior and scroll down and let me find platform. Okay, so this behavior will add in the function of jumping and running along platforms. Okay, so let me just add that. Okay, and if I click play right now, right, the player will just fall and die. Okay, and fall through the screen. Okay, whether or not he's dead, I'm not sure. Okay, he will just fall through the screen because there's some gravity so-called applied to this. To make sure that the player can actually be caught in the ground here, that the ground actually catch the player, right, you need to select the ground object and you need to add a behavior, okay, called solid. Okay, if you look at this platform, the description of this platform behavior, right, it says jump and run along platforms. You need to have a solid object. Okay, so it's giving you some hints of what you need to do to ensure that your player don't just, or your character don't just fall through and die. So for the ground, we actually need to select this solid object, and you can once again see over here in the tooltip, make the object impassable so that objects cannot move or fall through it. Okay, so very helpful. Okay, so let me just add this and let me just hit play, and you will see that the player actually lands correctly, and you can actually start to move this player already. So if I use the directional keys left, right, you know, I'm actually moving the player. If I click up, I'm actually jumping. Okay, so let me just close this for now. If I select on the player again, I can actually make some changes to the parameters over here. So for example, if I increase the max speed to be super high, the default is 3, let me just add a 0. Okay, and I click this. Okay, the player can go super fast. Okay, and let me just reset it back to 230. If I make the jump strength to be super high, okay, let me try this. If I jump right, yeah, the player will fly out of the screen. Okay, and I don't know if he will ever land back. Okay, so you can play with these parameters to suit your gameplay. Okay, so the next step is maybe we can add some stuff to this scene to make it more interesting. So let me just insert a new object, and let me choose a sprite and let me call it platform. So these are the floating platforms that the player will jump onto. So to make it more obvious, maybe just give it a different color, purple color, for example. I'm using the brush tool, should use the fill tool. Okay, close it, and let me just add this over here. Okay, so whatever objects that I'm creating over here, right, you can see that it is being populated in the project panel, right? So I have the ground, the platform, the player, the sky in the objects type over here. Now, if let's say you have an object that you want to duplicate across the entire scene, right, please do not right click and insert new object again, and let me choose sprite, and let me choose platform and call it platform 2 lah, for example. Unless there's a specific reason for it, like maybe you want the platform to be moving or something like that. Okay, so let me just give it the same color. And so over here, right, these two platforms look identical. Okay, but in actual fact, they are two different objects named differently. One is called platform and one is called platform 2. So try to avoid doing this unless there's a specific reason, like you want this platform 2 to be unique, like maybe it moves or it crumbles when the player steps on it, okay, etc. But if it's supposed to be the same platform and it's supposed to work in the same way, right, you would, instead of doing what I did just now by right click inserting new object, you will want to actually drag and drop from the project panel. So let me just drag and drop this platform. Okay, and let me just show you why you should do it this way instead. Okay, so with this new platform selector, I can still resize it, okay, but it is still the same object. Okay, I can go into the behavior and I can add in a solid behavior, close this, and you see that this solid behavior, right, is being added to this original platform object as well. But if you look at this platform 2 object, it's not added because it is construct recognizes it as a separate object. Okay, so try not to confuse yourself by adding the same, like repeatedly and adding the same object over and over again, because you run into the issue where I already set this change, like for example, I can even go in here and maybe change the color, maybe I change it to green, you know, I close it, and you can see that it is being this change, right, is being affected on the original object as well, but it's not affected on this platform too. Okay, so avoid doing this unless there's a specific reason to do so. Okay, so let me just delete this and let me just get rid of this platform 2 to avoid confusion. So let me shift this around, create some platforms for the character to jump on. So since I already have the solid behavior, okay, maybe I increase the jump strength a bit more, 1000 maybe. Okay, since I already have the solid behavior, right, the character will be able to ascend up these stairs, these platforms. Okay, the next thing I want to go through is just some simple interactions. Okay, so let me just create a new object. Once again, I choose a sprite, and maybe this time around I call it coin. Okay, insert, click on here, maybe choose like a gold kind of color. Okay, and then just to be a bit more obvious, let me just draw in the dollar sign. Or maybe since it's a coin, right, is it something right? Yeah. So this is a very small coin that the character can collect. Okay, once again, if I want to duplicate this, right, I should not insert new object and create another one. I should always drag out instances of this. Okay, something like that, and just populate this a bit more with this coin. Okay, so what I want to do now, right, is when I play this game, okay, looks very ugly right now, but when the character comes into contact with this coin, right, the character should be able to collect it, like the coin should disappear. Okay, so let me just shift all these coins down a little bit because the character is a bit short. Okay, something like that. To make this interaction happen, right, we actually need to do some very basic scripting. Okay, and for scripting, right, we are using this thing called the event sheet. So every layout, right, should be tied to an event sheet. If you are not sure what which layout is being controlled by which event sheet, right, simply click on the layout and you will see over here that there is this event sheet drop down panel over here. So if let's say, right, I for whatever reason I have another event sheet over here called event sheet 2, right, and let's say my layout 1 is being controlled by event sheet 2 instead of event sheet 1, then I go and do my programming or my scripting on event sheet 1, nothing will happen because you did not tell construct that there's a connection between layout 1 and event sheet 1. Layout 1 currently is being, the directions for layout 1 is being controlled by event sheet 2. So just take note of that. Okay, so let me just delete event sheet 2 to avoid confusion. So my advice, right, is to always rename this. So let's say I call it gameplay, and my event sheet 1, right, I will also give it like maybe event ES to stand for event sheet, and I call it gameplay lah. So there is no confusion. Okay, ES gameplay will be controlling the gameplay layout. Okay, this will be handy if let's say you have multiple layouts, which again I don't think you will for the context of this assignment, but I'm just putting that out because in the past when I teach this game engine, right, some of the students run into the problem where how come things are not happening, but it's because of the misalignment of the connection. Okay, so anyway, right now I want it so that when the character touches the coin, right, the coin will disappear, or the coin is being collected lah. Okay, so let me just go into my event sheet, and when the event sheet is empty, right, there is actually a very simple tutorial over here lah, and I think it does a good job at describing what you are supposed to do with this. So basically, right, on the left side is the condition. So if this thing happened, okay, let me just draw a dotted line over here, then this action will happen. So then this. So if A happens, then B will happen. Okay, so this is the very basic logic of how you can script or you can program in Construct this game engine. Okay, so I think it's very straightforward lah. Okay, so let's add an event, and let's add this event of when the player, okay, there are a couple of things over here, but we are specifically looking at this on collision with another object. So when the player go and touch this object, okay, on collision with another object, click next, and which object? The object is coin. And as you can see over here, this is where it's very important to make sure that the same object has only one instance. So imagine, right, if there's a coin 2, coin 3, coin 4, coin 5, you have to do the same, you have to repeat the same steps for coin 2, coin 3, coin 4, coin 5 as well. But because in the layout, right, everything we just duplicated from this coin, this default coin. So this one script, right, will be able to control all the coins, okay, that we have in the layout. Okay, so let me just select on this coin and click done. So if this thing happens, the player go and touch this coin, right, then this action will take place. What is action? Click on action. The coin will scroll down, will be destroyed. Okay, the coin will be destroyed. Alright, so let me just go back to my gameplay and let me just test it. Okay, so right now the coins are there. Okay, I jump up to the platform. Okay, I go and collect this coin. The coin disappears. Okay, next coin. Okay, so very simple interaction. This is something that you can do. Okay, so with this done, let me just quickly move on to another example. Okay, let me do a new project. Okay, create. Just close this, don't save. Okay, so let me just do the same thing again, just for simplicity. Make sure that my layout is the same size as the camera. Okay, so another popular genre that you may consider is the top-down, and of course there's also the top-down template for Unity that I've given you guys since Digital Game Art module. Okay, but to recreate that in Construct, it's quite simple. So I will insert a new object and I will just create a sprite, and let me just call it player. Okay, give it the same yellow tone. Okay, let me just rescale this player. Okay, but instead of giving it a platform behavior, I will give it a tile movement instead. Okay, move an object around a 2D grid. So I add this. Okay, and then when I hit play, right, if I'm using the directional keys, you can see that I am moving the player kind of in a four-way grid lah, like a tile movement. Okay, and I can always change the speed of this over here. Okay, so if I want it to be faster, you can just 2 times it, and now it's a bit faster. Okay, the next thing I want to show you, right, let me just delete this and get rid of this altogether, is how to insert your own graphics. So in this example, I will just use some free assets that I've acquired online. Okay, so let me just insert a new object, and let me insert a sprite, and let's call it player again. Okay, insert, and let me just look for a free one that I have over here. I think it's player, and let me just insert idle. Okay, so I'll do one for like a. So the way that you prepare your images, right, it could be in this format where it's single frames for single PNGs for individual PNGs for individual frames, or you could do something like a sprite sheet, something like that, right? So let me just show you if let's say you were to create it in a single frame, I will import it like this. Okay, so double click, and right now you have this single image over here, and then if I want to insert a animation, right, I can go over here, add frame, and I will load in the next frame, right? Oops, sorry, I did the wrong thing. I need to select this frame, load in this frame. Okay, import, or you can import frames through this method, but let me just do it the old school way. Load in this, and then add frame again, select on this, and 4. Okay, so you can see over here that there are animation states that you can have. For now, I will just keep it by default name animation 1. Okay, of course you can rename this as well. Maybe I just call it idle. And over here you can see the speed and the loop. So for now, since it's an idle animation, I can select on loop, close this, and if I just make this a bit bigger, let me just make it 90 by 90 so that it's a bit clearer on the screen, but it looks a bit pixelated. You can see over here that it loops. Okay, and if I find that the animation is happening too slowly, right, I can always change the speed of this. So instead of 5, I can give it 60. Okay, it's basically the frames per second lah. So now it's moving very quickly. Okay, so that's how you can change the animation speed. Okay, if let's say, let me just get rid of this again. I have a, let me just do a top-down player lah. Okay, if I have a sprite sheet, right, insert, and I click on my, if I have a sprite sheet animation, instead of going through and clicking on this load button, right, I can actually click on this little dropout, and I can click on load animations, and then let me just find my top-down, this one. Okay, and then it will ask you whether you want to import from files or you want to import from sprite strip. In this case, it is a sprite strip, and let me just open up that just to show you. So that sprite strip that I have, right, looks something like this. Okay, it's a forward, backwards, left, right walk cycle, and it's only 2 frames lah. Okay, so you can see over here that this sprite strip, right, is divided into 4 rows and 2 columns. Okay, so that's what I need to put in when I put over here. Horizontal cells, there are 2. Oops, there are 2, and vertical cells, there are 4. Okay, direction is horizontal. Okay, import. Okay, and then you can see that it already cuts out the individual frames for me. Okay, so very handy. Okay, but right now, right, it's showing all the different states. Okay, so what I want instead, right, is let me just delete this default animation one. I will duplicate this 4 times. Okay, and let me see. I will rename this as walk front, walk. Okay, maybe not front. It should be down, up. Walk up, walk down, walk. Walk up, walk down, walk left, and walk right. Okay, so we have all these different states. So let me just go to walk down and find. So walk down is this first 2 frames, and let me just delete the rest of them. Walk up is frame this frame 2 and 3. Okay, so let me just delete the other frames, and then walk left is here, and walk right is this one. Okay. Okay, I forgot to put in the idle animation, so let me just load a new animation and put in the idle from strip horizontal cells 2, vertical cells 1, and let me just hit import, and now I have the idle. Okay, rename this to idle. Okay, and just make sure that I loop all these animations because they are supposed to loop. Okay, and move this up. So by default it is the idle animation, I believe. So let me just resize this a bit more so that it is obvious later when we test it out. So if I hit play now, I think it's the, let's see, yeah, the initial animation over here is set to walk down. So let me just set it to idle and hit play. Okay, so now by default, right, it just idles okay, which is good. Let me just add in the tile movement. Okay, and hit play. Okay, so this character is able to move in the tile. Let me just up this value a bit, 300. Okay, let's see. Okay, now it feels a bit a bit more smooth. Okay, but you can observe that the correct animation doesn't play. So in this case, we will need to go back to the event sheet again to tell construct what animation to play. But before we do that, right, we need to right click over here, insert new object, and add in under input, right, add in keyboard. Okay, so by default you can use your keyboard as illustrated in the platformer example just now. Okay, even without adding this, but to trigger or to find it in the event script, right, you need to manually add this in. So just add in keyboard, and you'll see that over here the keyboard is being added. Okay, so let me go to event sheet 1, add event. So what we want to do now, right, is to manually assign okay, keyboard when this key is being wait, let me see, when this key is down, okay, left key, okay, and done. Add action, the player should be playing this animation called walk left. That's how we name it just now. Okay, then I can select this, copy and paste it, so it's easier, faster. Okay, up, done. This one will be walk up. done, and then let me just paste this again. Now I do for down, done. This will be down. Okay, then let me just paste this again for right. Okay, so right now we have assigned, all this. Okay, if the left key is down, this animation will play. If the up key is down, this animation will play, so on and so forth. What we still need to add in one more state. We go to keyboard, and when on any key release, so when you're not pressing any key, okay, at action, the player will play the animation of idle. Okay, if not, it will continuously play whatever walk animation that you just construct to play. Okay, so let me just try it out. By default, it is playing idle animation. If I go left, it will play the left walk animation. If I go right, it will play the walk right animation. Okay, if I go up, it will play the up animation, down animation. If I release the key, okay, it will play the idle animation. Okay, so very simple. Okay, so let me close this, and for the final part of my demonstration, right, let me just go back to a platformer example. So once again, let me just do a new file. Okay, close previous project, go and save. Okay, so I have this over here, and this time I will leave the layout size for now. Okay, what I want to show you, right, is how you can quickly populate your scene, okay, with background elements. Okay, so let me just add in the background first. So insert new object, and instead of using sprite, right, this time you use a Tilemap. So if let's say you were to prepare your background, and it looks something like this folder, if it looks something like this, let me try to find it. Okay, if your background looks something like this, right, like you did the tile set, then you may want to insert it as a Tilemap instead of as a sprite. If you save it as an individual sprite like this, right, then for sure you insert it as a sprite lah. Okay, but if you prepare your file in this way, you would want to insert it as a Tilemap instead. So let me just insert as a Tilemap, and insert as a Tilemap, and just call it environment insert. Just click. Okay, by default this is the default construct Tilemap which we won't use. Let me just load in the Tilemap from just now. It should be here, yes. Okay, so we have this, and let's close it. So by default, the Tilemap, right, will just encompass the entire layout size. Okay, to paint in your tiles, right, if you recall back in digital game art, we are using this I think tile palette in Unity. Okay, there's a similar function in Construct as well. So if you go under your layers tab, layers panel, right, you can see over here on the right hand side, there is this Tilemap tab. So click on this Tilemap tab, and you'll be able to see the Tilemap that you have uploaded just now, that you have loaded just now. Okay, so what we can do is, firstly, I will set my tile width. In this case, the free asset I'm using, right, their tile is 16 by 16, so I will just do so. Okay, and then I will click enter, and then I will select on the tile that I want to paint on this canvas. Okay, maybe I go with this, and then I click on this pencil looking tool. Okay, and then I can start to populate the scene with the tiles. Okay, so something like this. Let me exit out of this mode. I can also give this a behavior, this entire tile map a behavior. So everything that is inside this tile map, right, will share this same behavior. So I can click on solid. So everything over here, all these platforms are solid platforms. So I can just load in a placeholder character. Player, and let me just use the same yellow. Okay, and let me just also give it a platform behavior. Okay, and just make the jump strength a bit stronger. Okay, so if I test this, right, yeah, the player will be able to land on the tiles lah. Okay, so I can also fall through. The next thing I want to show you, right, is for platformers, usually there will be a scrollable, like the level will not be constrained to what you see in your camera. You usually need to go right lah, right, like more towards the right. So in this case, let me just click on my layout. So I don't need the verticality, so I can set the height, right, to be 1080. That's fine. Okay, so 1080, that's fine. I can set the width to be longer, so maybe I do 5000 lah. Okay, so let me just go back to my tile map. I can also resize this, but it's not necessary lah. Okay, but definitely if I want to populate this area, I will need to enlarge it. So let me just paint a few more tiles over here. Tiles over here, so my character can try to go there. Okay, something like this. And let me just hit the play button. Okay, but then you run into the problem whereby the camera doesn't actually follow the player, so my character can actually exit out of the viewport area. So to make the camera follow the player, simply click on the player, add in another behavior called scroll to. Okay, so you can read the tooltip over here, always center the view of on this object. Okay, so I will add this, close this, and let me just try it again. Okay, as I'm moving the player, right, you will notice that the camera actually follows the player. Okay, one last thing that I want to show you is parallax effect. So very common in platformers. Usually when the camera is scrolling, right, the front objects, the objects in the foreground will move faster than the objects in the background. Okay, you can observe this phenomenon in real life as well. If let's say you're sitting in a car and then you're moving, right, like the trees that are closer to you will appear to go past your field of vision faster than, let's say, the clouds in the far background or the buildings in the far background. Okay, so we are trying to recreate that effect. So the way to recreate this effect, right, is to use the layers feature. So right now everything is on layer 0. Let me create a new layer at the bottom called maybe called VG lah. Okay, and let me just insert in a new object. Okay, instead of a sprite, right, I will do a tile background and I will show you what's the difference lah. So I will just do a sky insert, and let me load in a sky over here and close it. Okay, so a tile background, right, basically it allows you to, like the name suggests, it allows you to tile the background lah. So if let's say you have a seamless graphic like this, you can actually repeat it infinitely. Okay, so let me let's see, scale image. Okay, so this image is a bit small, so let me just make it bigger. Okay, so that I can actually fill up the whole or most of the space over here. Okay, maybe I need to just go straight to 500. Okay, so something like that. You can feel the scene. But the problem is that when you hit play, right, you actually don't see the background. And that is because when you select this layer 0, right, you do need to check this option of transparent. So when you check this, right, you'll be able to see the background. And right now, if I were to play this, okay, you'll notice that the background and the foreground, right, they are moving at the same speed. So it looks very flat lah, like the whole thing looks very flat. So what I can do, right, let me close this. I can select on this background layer and I can go under Parallax. Okay, so Parallax, right, is basically how much the X and Y will shift, okay, depending on the movement speed lah. Okay, so 100 is just the default value. If you want to make something go slower, right, then you need to reduce the amount. So in this case, since I'm only moving along the x-axis, I will just reduce this. Maybe to make it more obvious, to make the effect more obvious, I will do a very low amount, maybe 10 or 20. Okay, let's go with 20. Okay, so now if I try it, you will notice that the background is moving slower, right? It's moving slower than my foreground. So it looks a bit nicer lah. Okay, so you can play with this parallax effect, not parallax error, parallax effect if you are doing a platformer. With that, I think it concludes my very quick demonstration of this construct tree game engine. Okay, of course, if you are doing something a bit more specific and you encounter some problems, you can ask me lah, and I can see if I can help you with that. But if not, I think construct tree should be quite sufficient with what you need to produce for the trailer component, for the video component of the assignment 2. Alright. Yeah. If not, I will see you guys next week. Bye bye.